welcome back to Send Him Off. Another pre-season preview for you today, and we are right at the top of the alphabetical chain. I probably should have done this first to satisfy my clinging need for order, but oh well, you know, we're a week late. We are, of course, talking about Arsenal. I'm Sam, as always, and as always is joining me.
Always.
Oh, I buggered that up, and as always, joining me is my ever-present podcasting partner, Alex.
You can tell we're recording this on a Monday, can't you?
Yes,
you can tell. But we're not alone, of course. We're not alone. This is the pre-season run-up. We got Dennis. Yeah, Sam, you introduce him because last time, I'm not going to do it. I did my little intro. Happened. Yeah, you do it.
We all know what happened. Yeah, we got Dennis with us from the Sideline Talk Podcast and Rivalry Aside TV. Dennis, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
All good, mate. All good, boys. Thanks for having me on. Like you said, Monday, so, you know, we got to keep going, but the work continues. We move. How are you, boys? You all right?
Yeah, good. Bad. I think you're the first person to ask how we are, to be fair. That might be the first time. Do you know what? Thank you for asking. I'm good. It's about time someone did.
And the rest of you, shame on you.
Yeah, shame on you. But no, good. Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem.
We talk some Arsenal.
Should we not?
To be fair, we normally talk arse, but
yeah.
Today so there's not much difference. So Dan, what are your overriding thoughts going into the season?
I think the same as everyone, really. I think I'm preaching for the Arsenal choir. Like, I'm a bit disappointed that as much business hasn't happened. I think we were one of many teams that needed a lot doing. I think Arsenal, Tottenham were in the sort of same boat as each other, where they needed a lot of deadwoods being released and sort of a lot of new players coming in. We've made some signings, obviously Ben White being announced finally, but the excitement over that was a bit underwhelming because it was sort of a ticking time bomb because everyone knew it was going to happen. But for me, I think there's still so much work to do, and the fact we're the first game of the season in 2 weeks' time, and it's less than 2 weeks now, is a big worry. Because there's still some skeletons there in closets, and I think the real big issues haven't been addressed, and we're focusing on areas that we don't necessarily need to. But I'm nervous. Obviously, last season wasn't great, but there's just so much work to do in that team, and I don't envy anyone in the dressing room, really, players or the coaching staff or the manager or even the board, because it is a lot of work to be done, and you can't. There's not much to sell with Arsenal, but I'm hoping there's going to be some big things happening in the next 2 weeks at least. Something needs to impress us because at the moment nothing really has.
Do you know what? Before we came on, I could you were bubbly, we were fun, we were having a bit of banter. The minute we start talking about Arsenal, the life, it almost as if I even mentioned the word Arsenal, it was like it sucked it out of you. But I can see what you're talking about because. Like you talk about Ben White and like Arsenal seem to be like sniffing around clubs with, without being disrespectful, like Brighton, like, I'm looking at you, Anderlecht, and I know Anderlecht have got, they got a tidy academy of like, young players and things like that. But it almost seems as if like the caliber of players you're looking at has like dropped because, eighth last season is for a team like Arsenal, it's pretty unacceptable. As an Arsenal fan, you probably said it yourself plenty of times down the ground or to whoever, but it just seems as if like the caliber of players you're looking at just has dropped off, and you're paying 50, and I know the money that's being spent these days is insane, ridiculous, whatever, but 50 million for a Brighton defender doesn't happen very often. So like, what's your thought? Like, is he that good? Do you think he'll be that good? Do you think he's going to fit in?
I think he could be. But I think the problem is now these days you're paying for what they could be in a couple of years.
You're paying for the potential, exactly. Yeah, we had someone else said that.
And you're not paying for what they actually are now. When you look at it on paper, look at him. He didn't even get a minute in the Euros. So you look at the standard he's at the moment. He didn't even get any sort of. He wasn't even a contender for the Euros as a centre back, really. Because you had Tyrone Mings and stuff performing like, and the fact that you look at players like Varane being signed for 40 million when he's.
But that's what I was thinking, because like you got City sniffing around Kane, you got United Varane and Sancho and things like that.
It does make it. It does put it into perspective. Are we really ripping ourselves off? Because you look at him, he's got God knows how much silverware behind his belt. And you look at Brighton, they've got some really good centre halves. Ben White is one of a few. So I don't think he'll be a massive loss on them personally. They've got the likes of Lewis Dunk and even Webster. I know they're sort of good players. I'm not saying that Ben White's at their level. Obviously, it's a completely different ball game. But I think he's got a big weight on his shoulders, because that sort of money being spent on a centre half, it's a big statement. It's a statement by Arsenal. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad we've sort of gone out and done that. I just hope it is reciprocated in other areas of the field, because usually I'm quite reserved when it comes to like transfers with Arsenal, because I know we seem to leave it into the 59th minute of the 11th hour. We always seem to do that, like deadline day announcement. But the fact that there's just so much to do, and in my opinion, our centre half would have been the last piece of the puzzle. I don't think there was much need for a centre half in terms of like our squad depth, because we've got plenty of them at the moment. Obviously, the whole Saliba situation is just bizarre. So it was just a shock to me. I think there was probably like every other position, every other area of the field which we could work on. We needed a backup left back. We got that. Bellerin's looking out of sorts. So I think it is the fact that he is a centre half and we've spent that money on him, because it wasn't really necessary. Good for the point of looking like we mean business. But I think if another club wanted to spend 50 million on Ben White, he would have obviously turned his head the other way. So it is just the fact that we gave in, really, because on paper, I'd say he's 35 million max. Perhaps not even that. It's just a case of English tax and that he's so young. But yeah, I'm trying to not be too negative about it, because he is a good player. It's just, I mean, he looked good yesterday. It's just about what he brings to the table. Can he bring enough to the table right now? Because we're in a position where we need players to make a change now, not in 2-3 years' time. Like we just mentioned about 8th place. We need to really start aiming back where we used to be.
Yeah. You said you won't be too negative. I am now going to be a negative Nancy again. It's just my job on this podcast. I'm looking through the squad, and I said this a while ago, like towards the end of last season as well. There's just so much deadwood at Arsenal, and I think what we needed to do was get rid of it. And I'm looking at it, and they haven't. For me, a lot of it. I mean, I know there was talk about Xhaka. Being deadwood, but I mean, he had a really good Euros. Obviously, scored yesterday or the day before against Chelsea. So, but perhaps turns a corner maybe. But then you look at like, I don't know, like Torreira, even Elneny. I don't rate personally. Kolasinac. Like, there's just a lot of players who are on the wage bill. Probably are going to be shipped off at some point, and I'm not sure that some of these players are the type of players that's going to get you top 4. But then, you look at players like Saka, Thomas Partey, who really didn't do much for me last year, but maybe he'll have a big season. Similarly to what I said about Thiago when we did the Liverpool one. I think he maybe needed the season to bed himself in, see what the Premier League is like, but maybe there's a special season coming. Smith Rowe is another one. Martinelli as well. He was riddled with injury last year, wasn't he? So
yeah, this is the thing. Like, with Partey as well, he barely had an injury to his name, and then he come to Arsenal, and all of a sudden he's one of the most injury-prone players of the season. So yeah, we've had an issue with that. We haven't really seen him develop, and we haven't seen what we can of him yet. There's still a lot to see from Partey. Obviously, he picked up a knock yesterday, but hopefully it's not too serious. He just needs to get out of that and find rhythm, because he hasn't had enough game time to actually set a precedent in that midfield. And like you said, clearly there is an issue there. I think Xhaka gets a lot of slate, but like the names you've just mentioned, they're all bigger fish to fry. Even not just midfield, you've got players like Bellerin. What is he doing? He's not been playing. We should have really sold him like 2 seasons ago. And it's quite refreshing to see people like Chambers not get mentioned in the deadwood, because he's actually come out on top. Him and Bellerin had similar injuries, and Chambers has somehow gained the yards. Bellerin's lost about 3. This just shows you like what sort of has happened to the Arsenal team. 3 years ago, Bellerin would have been worth arguably 40 million when he was in his peak. Now we'd be lucky to get 20. So we do really need to like start getting the ball rolling with the deadwood, like you say. And the players we have not even got rid of at the moment, but either loaned or just let out on a free. Of the players I probably wouldn't have really minded staying. People like Saliba. I was quite looking forward to see him come in this season. It doesn't look like he's going to play for Arsenal again now. His number's been given away, and he's that's 2 loans on the trot without even playing a game for him. So it's just, I don't understand the intention, the thought process, because we spent 27 million on him and he's not even being considered for the first team. Yeah. I'm not sure what's being seen on the training ground. But yeah, like you said, Jack has had a few good games. I'd keep him in there, definitely. I think it's too late now anyway. I think for the price that we're looking at selling him for, we wouldn't replace him well enough.
No.
And you've got to really look at it and think, is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, is it worth getting rid of someone to bring when you might not be able to replace him? Keep him for another season. People like Lacazette as well. Everyone slanders Lacazette. I think with a good number 10 behind him, he can deliver. He was our top goal scorer last season. So, I mean, I don't know why we're trying to look at the players that saved us last season and be like, oh, get rid of them, when there was so many other issues. Like Guendouzi went out on loan. I like him. He's got a bit of grit. So he would have been one of the last people again for me to sort of say, oh, but this is the problem. The players that the Deadwood we've got, it's going to be very hard to get attention like around them because they've not shown anything. And this is the reason why we need to get rid of them. And some of them are not young either. People like Kolasinac, they're in their final years of the season. So it's tough. I think at the moment I've only got one confident area, and that's probably the front three. Like you mentioned, Martinelli. Hopefully he'll come like rising star now because he had a long time out. He's been quite unlucky. You've got Smith Rowe, Saka. Hopefully, like the front three looks quite composed, and I think Pepe is going to have the best season of his life. I honestly believe I think he started to show towards the end, like I'm coming now, I'm ready, sort of thing. So, but yeah, it's really tricky because it's tough to even talk about because it's just like it's a repetitive stage now, and now we're not even in Europe. When you haven't even got Europe to sort of look at, we're only going to be playing football. Once we come out of the Carabao Cup, it's going to be very, very, thin minutes for some players. So depth is something we don't necessarily need.
I think you kind of said it all there. Once you come out of the Carabao Cup, and it just seems like there's a lack of like ambition at Arsenal. And I don't know if I can't remember exactly. Was it Arsenal that would do a takeover from the owners of Spotify? Was it you lot? What's happened there? I need to, because this is not something that's got anything to do. I don't think. Oh my gosh, his name, the manager, he's left my mind. Arteta.
Yeah, sorry.
Left my mind.
No. Daniel Ek.
No. I don't think this has got. This is not really his fault. The recruitment, the signings. This is obviously something higher up. So where do you stand on all that? Is it like Kroenke? Who is it?
Yeah, I mean, I went to the Kroenke out protest, the first one. What made me laugh was how it took something like a Super League to get the fans going, to get their heads like really, really angry. But it's beyond that. The problem at Arsenal is way beyond that. We're spending money outrageously, and we're not spending it on the right areas. And when you've got someone like Edu, at the top, someone that has been an Arsenal player and supposedly, born and bred Arsenal, and there's only a certain amount of time you can be patient, and the Kroenkes, like, they don't seem to really care about football or the fans. They've shown that multiple times. I'm not in a position to say Daniel Ek will come in and do well. Like, I'm not going to say, just because he's got one of the best music platforms in the world, he's going to shine and do the same with Arsenal, because I don't know what sort of, if we're in a position to take gambles like that. Of course we want new owners in, but will that solve the problem? I'm not entirely convinced, because like we just mentioned, we're not a really convincing club to join at the moment. If I'm a player, like there's all these rumours about us wanting to get Maddison. If I'm someone like that, would you really go somewhere where there's...
Personally, I'd stay at Leicester.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think we're going to really struggle to even attract, like, even your Aston Villas and stuff. Like, they're signing some great players this season. Like, they've just had a deal with Liam Bailey, great little winger from the German league, from Leverkusen. I don't even think we'd be able to attract players like that at the moment, because there's nothing that we can offer that other teams can't. And I get, you can say, Arsenal on the build, they're looking at trying to go back. The next couple of years are going to be big for them. But how long have we been saying that? Besides winning the FA Cup, we've been in this position for years where we're trying to creep back up to the top four. and nothing's really progressed. But if we hadn't have won the FA Cup 2 years ago, there would be nothing to show that we're sort of in a position now where we're getting back on our feet. And the players we have got at the moment that we should be relying on, they're not all cutting it. I mean, I'm sure you're going to bring this up, but like Aubameyang, I don't know what's happened with him. I don't know where his head's at. So for me, I think the ownership is a problem, but I'm not entirely convinced, because obviously recently as well, there's been more like sort of talk about Daniel Welbeck apparently supposedly coming in with another bid. I think we need to look at the bigger problem here. I'm not sure that like he'll get any more wheels in motion than what the Kroenkes do. They're spending money, like they're just not doing it quick enough. We've had the transfer window's been open since June. I get there was Euros, but I've not seen one player we've been linked with that even went to the Euros. So it's, for me, the problem is a lot. I know it sounds silly, but it's a lot higher than the ownership.
Yeah.
Totally.
Alex, you mentioned, Alex, that you don't think it's Arteta's fault, but judging from social media, you see the new Arteta out is trending again. After Arsenal lose. Where do you stand? I suppose the crux of the question is, do you trust the process?
Because Sam was actually a big Arteta, like you were a big Arteta fan when they signed him. Sam was back in the process. Yeah, at one point things obviously have changed, but there is clearly a process. But do you, like Sam said, you back it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good man for the job. I'm not going to say right man. If you would have asked me before the Europa League, I definitely would have said like being Arteta in, said I'm confident. But he really disappointed me with that, because there were so many things he got wrong when we were knocked out of the Europa League, which he very easily could have just not. And I mean, us being in the final against Man United would have been brilliant. Like to go and win the Europa League against them would have really, put a set in stone and shown that, we are still contenders. We've just knocked out one of the biggest clubs in England in a European trophy. And that really changed my motive and my intention with Arsenal, because I was so shocked at just the way he'd taken such an important game and made such reckless decisions. So I think he throws himself under the bus, I feel like sometimes, because there are such easy things he can do. Things like making a substitution 15 minutes earlier. He could just do it, and it does make that change, and he just holds back. And sometimes I feel like he just makes reckless decisions in terms of the lineup in the first place. I don't feel like he knows what to do with his team yet, and he's had a long time now to get to know these teams. It's not like we're full of so much talent. There could be a lot bigger weight on your shoulders where you've got more and better players in there. He hasn't got a lot to work with, so he should be getting this right. And my problem is when we become a top four team again, which I think we will at one point, I'm just not sure when. How's he going to manage to cope with that when we've got real stars in there, and you're putting the likes of, I don't know, El Neni, and you're leaving people like Pai on the bench or Xhaka on the bench, or you're not starting Pepe and you're starting with Willian. Just small decisions like that. And it's like we're going to end up, if we do end up signing bigger and better players, they won't put up with it, and he'll just lose the dressing room. That's my problem, my thought on it all. I feel like I don't have faith in him at the moment to do the right thing by the players, and that's the big problem. Because if I can't trust him to even put out the right 11, then it all goes crashing down from there, unfortunately.
We are slowly running out of time. But I just want to sort of I'm asking everybody this, 2 questions before we go. First one, your sort of star man, the man to watch this season, because for me personally, it's not Aubameyang anymore. Everybody mentions Aubameyang. He's on all the Sky Sports promos. For me, it's got to be Bukayo Saka. I mean, I know he had the setback with Euros, but I just think
I don't think that was a setback at all. It was he missed a penalty. That was all it was. Obviously it was in the final, and he had his repercussions and racism. Totally disgusting and all that. It wasn't a setback. He got all the way to the final, and he outplayed almost every other England player on that field. Not everyone, but at 19 years of age.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah,
100%. I'd say him or Pepe for me.
Yeah, I agree it wasn't a setback. I don't think it will knock him. I think if anything, it will rise him further on, because he'll have seen all the love and appreciation that every fan has shown him, and deservedly. All we saw this summer, I wasn't expecting him to get many minutes for England, but he started like 2 or 3 games. So I'm completely chuffed for him, to be honest. I thought at the beginning, I wasn't really too bothered about him not going, because I thought he won't play much anyway. But yeah, I'm sticking with Pepe. I feel like Pepe is just, he knows how to cut inside, and I feel like Pepe is a lot stronger. And I feel like he's just got that sort of ability to cut in, and I think he'll be scoring goals again this season. Saka will have a good season though. But obviously he's played a lot of football, so it's going to take him some time. He's not even back in training yet either.
Yeah.
So I think Pepe is the man to watch for me this season.
I think for all we said about Arsenal, they've got some talented young players. You know, you've got Saka, you've got Maitland-Niles, you know, Smith Rowe as well.
Yeah.
Eddie Nketiah as well. So, you know, as bleak as it looks now, there is quite a bright future coming through at Arsenal. It's just whether or not
Definitely
it can stay bright. You know what I mean?
It's a light at the end of the tunnel. But
yeah, exactly, absolutely.
Yeah. It's about trusting the process, whether that's Arteta's or not. Just quickly before we go, we mentioned 8th place finish last year. Do you want to put your neck on the line? Give us a number where you think you're going to finish this year.
Right now, based on the team we've got, 6th, but I'm hoping 5th.
To be fair, I don't think 6th, given
I think it's not the question.
Top 6 last year.
Yeah.
I don't think 6th is that bad for an Arsenal team who are going through such a rebuild. Personally, maybe as a fan you think differently, but as a neutral, I think if you compare the actual teams, and I think there's teams in even Leicester, I'd probably take man for man at the moment over Arsenal.
Yeah.
So I think a top 6 finish would be well in for them, really.
I think Europe would be fair. We'll see.
I'm hoping so. Yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens. It's all next Friday. Will completely tell me what if nothing happened by next Friday, and we're 2 weeks Friday, and we're still sitting there with certain players to sign. Then we are in trouble. That's when I'm thinking, okay, well, transfer window ends at the end of the month. You know, get your ass in gear.
Yeah. Well,
we'll see.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up. Dennis, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you for joining us.
So much for coming.
No worries.
Would you like a couple of moments just to plug whatever? Tell us where people can find you.
Yeah, so I've got my own channel, Sideline Talk Podcast, which will be back on the 12th of August. We're having a bit of a break because we did some content during the Euros. But yeah, that'll be back soon. And I'm also doing some Arsenal content on Rivalry Aside TV, which is just a bunch of lads talking things Liverpool, West Ham, Leicester, and obviously Arsenal now as well, and Tottenham. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Gets a bit spicy, but yeah, cheers for having me on, guys. I'm sure we'll do something this season on my channel. And
absolutely, be a pleasure.
Definitely.
Thanks for the chat.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah,
no worries. Cheers, boys.
Cheers, and thank you guys for listening. It's been a fun one. It's been an interesting one. Let us
a lot
know
of insight.
Yeah.
A lot of insight.
So, do you trust the process, Arsenal fans? You can find us on Instagram at Send Him Off Podcast, Twitter at Send Him Off Pod, and everywhere in between if you just search for Send Him Off Podcast. Thank you. Tomorrow, I think, is the Wolves preview, so stick around for that, and we'll see you soon.
Is that the first time in, like, I don't know, since the first one we've done, you actually knew what was coming?
Yeah.
I thought so, yeah. Fair play.
100%.
Well done.
Anyway, we'll leave you tuned out. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you soon. Ta-ra.
Take care.